eventually going to have to catch up with everybody else that we've been trying to catch up with and have their things resolved.
Yeah, what I said earlier about the flashbacks wasn't a critique. It was me just saying that usually with other fights, such as the Boro fight, they had like no other scenes they're following at the same time. They might have cut to like Shikamaru once, but aside from that, it's strictly following the A story
is one of the
with
most
flashbacks.
Fights in the series.
Yeah, like flashbacks are not just expected. At this point, they're just gonna be there in general, regardless of expectations. but even something like Ishiki Baryon mode fight, you're cutting between that and the Kawaki stuff, A and B. With this, there's 4 other things going on at the same time, on top of the flashbacks that are already gonna be there. And so you're having 5 different things, with flashbacks being a 6th thing, as opposed to like the Boro fight where there's only 2 things, the fight itself and flashbacks.
I agree with that. Like, personally, to me,
I don't think the Boro fight even has flashbacks.
Oh, even better.
If the Kawaki stuff doesn't directly impact this battle that's going on, it's something that could have been said after the battle. I didn't need to know about what Kawaki was doing right at this moment. If Kawaki doesn't pop up out of the blue somehow to intervene in this fight with his new power scaling and help out, then cool. That could have been a chapter 21 thing, chapter 22 thing. Like, hey, during this fight, this happened. And then we move on to whatever we're doing. Because I don't need I think altogether it's going to be like 6 pages of Kawaki dealing with Amado and all that. That could have been its own thing in any other chapter other than being interspersed between an actually fairly intense fight of seeing whether or not anybody other than Boruto can actually handle Shinjuu in any way, shape, or form competently, because they seem to be struggling a lot for something that they technically should have had planned from the beginning, and they seem to not be able to go from point A to point B without completely dropping the ball.
Ace, I'll go even further.
Kawaki.
Well, I guess I'll say my thing first.
I don't know what's going to be the better follow-up, but
mine was more direct than yours, I think. Yours was about Kawaki, but mine was about the concept.
It was going to be about Kawaki and the length of this arc. So whatever fits better, I guess.
I'll go first. I think it more directly addresses this thing. So even going based off of what Ace said, going even further than that, why do we need to see Kawaki doing this now? Even hypothetically with what Ace was saying, even if Kawaki doing this now does somehow affect or impact this current fight, regardless of how, if he freaking flies over here and one-shots Matsuri in the craziest panel of all time, whatever, even if they do that, I think it would be better for the sake of the story, for the impact, for it to be a surprise to us by just showing us that and then getting flashbacks to Kawaki doing that, rather than seeing us the lead up to Kawaki doing it. A similar example to this would be Madara going to Obito after defeating the 5 Kage, and then Naruto asking what happened over there, and Madara saying, I guess they're not doing too well, and then we get those flashbacks. To be fair, I think we already saw the full Susanoo at that point, but my point is we never saw the 5 Kage actually defeated. It's a similar concept.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess yours is better. So mine's not going to address that aspect, but speaking of Kawaki, so depending on how... So assuming Kawaki does get involved in some manner, that's definitely going to help extend the length of this arc. Because, like I said, if you want to go for the short end of this, the earliest midpoint realistically would be when the plan fails and now they're fighting the Shinjuu earlier than expected, essentially. That's like the earliest midpoint you can work with. If that's the case, that's 5 chapters. That means we've only had 1 chapter after that. So 4 more chapters to go, including chapter 20. If we're thinking this fight's going to end in chapter 20 or 21, guess what? We've got another like 3 chapters to go still.
So I don't think that works. That's why I do have theories.
Kawaki's impact would help extend things. So what does that mean he's going to do? Who knows? He might show up. He might piss Jar off. He might just go straight to Jar. He might fight Code. Who knows? But the point is, Kawaki could do something to extend this arc, in which case that would add value to him, like doing the Amado stuff in this arc as opposed to the next arc. But it's entirely dependent on whether he does something. Because if he doesn't do anything, bro, that could have been safe for the next arc. He could have spent this arc, just a couple of scenes really, thinking about it, struggling with whether or not he wants to listen to Boruto, whether or not he wants to go to Amano again, but he just cut to it. So because they've done that, it's almost like at this point, do something with it, please, no matter how little, because otherwise I'm asking, why did you do this now and why didn't you do something else?
Yeah. So I definitely do give this fight maybe about 2 more chapters. But like Kamui's saying, based on the length of this arc, it's going to be at least 4 more chapters probably. So based on that,
But
what
then
I
again,
do think... Oh, yeah?
I don't think I don't think Kawaki can get involved with Ryu and Matsuri just because if the spoilers are true, that's just not only does it seem like they might just have Ryu in the bag. Well, we'll get to it eventually. But if they don't have Ryu in the bag, man, who the fuck cares about the shit that's in the spoilers?
Well, we're
God damn it, if you're gonna do that shit, at least
it's being pushed. I'm willing to give them the space to write their way out of it.
So I'll give you an example of one that I don't necessarily like it going to this extreme. I'll backtrack and say a way that can be more reasonable for this. There's one, arguably two, that can work. For example, if Boruto goes, stops Matsuri, maybe he doesn't kill her, he just stops her from devouring Konohamaru. And because, like Koji said, so first of all, why is Boruto going there? A rational side of love. He doesn't want them to die. But like Koji said, if you go, Jura's going to show up. If that then leads to whenever angry Jura, going to end the world stakes later, okay, that tactically works. Konohamaru's flaw leads to Boruto making a flaw, which leads to Jura problem. Okay, that can work. I don't like it, but it works. A better version, though, would be Konohamaru goes down. Boruto shows up and saves Sarada or something, and then that leads to Jura, whatever. Now, like, you're addressing both sides, and that's a little bit more doable. Preferably, though, I'd rather just have the sand mission just fail, but, you know, like, but tactically, Boruto showing up can work, and it thematically works. It's just kind of, again, Boruto saves the day. Get out of here, bro.
You know what? I can also get that. Now, I'd also say if somehow Kawaki finds a way.
That's the other option. I was going to say Kawaki can show up and do something similar.
That pays off you showing us that Kawaki got a power upgrade to explain why he would be able to fight on their level. But we also do now know that Kawaki, if he gets his offense maxed out, he's losing his defensive abilities. So that means the damage he takes is much more damaging. And it has a lethality to him that it's either beat them before I die. It's basically the glass cannon idea, which could be cool. And I could see that. But that means that you need to also establish that these weren't happening concurrently, that this was in the past. And then Kawaki was rushing to them, which they have yet to show. Because if Kawaki just shows up now, you didn't Goku on the Dragon Road where you showed him before getting powerful and then rushing there and these things happening. And you're like, will he get there before it goes bad? Yeah. That builds that tension we talked about before. That would be cool. Now you've shown us that he's doing that, but the time frame doesn't line up now that if he does go out there, you have to show that he's been traveling this whole time, which means we lose the tension of whether or not he would make it in time because he's just going to show up.
Real quick side tangent. I'm just going to say it now before it inevitably happens. I haven't made my video complaining about Kawaki's defensive nonsense making no sense, but I'm just going to say it now. So we all know Kawaki's going to get stronger with his power, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just going to say it now. He's not going to be like the dude in JJK Season 2 to where if you flick him, he dies because his defenses are so... No. Kawaki's going to tank some ridiculous-ass attack at some point. He's going to, like, get punched by Jura. And bro is not going to splat open and die. He's going to be just fine. Like, his defenses never went down, even though his offense is going to go skyrocketing up. And it's going to not do what Amado's describing. And he's just going to get away with it. And they're going to do that.
I mean, I bet it's not even going to be offense. It's just going to be like overall stats, like speed. It's really going to be the thing you notice. He's going to get a new ability is what his offense increasing is going to do.
I mean, pretty accurate because in general, he should, to scale him wise, they're going to try to keep him in line with Boruto, which is weird at this point. But you know what? That's fine. You wrote in a reason of why he was getting washed by everybody because he's defensively powerful. Though him having a Winter Soldier like passcode from Amado, that shit was hilarious. That did make me laugh out loud because I've done that to players before and they've gotten, and it's something about taking away their agency when they don't know it. That brief moment of what the, and them just passing out is always funny to me because they never expect it. As far as how they can pull it off, I mean, I think that he'll be strong enough to be able to sustain through the damage, but I do need to see him hurt and injured in a way that makes sense, that
a way that makes it
out for the
impactful.
power he gets.
Like,
Yeah,
I want to see him
power,
actually hurt, and it matters. Like, it's like, because you did this, you are suffering from this injury now, and it matters. I don't want it to just be, oh, he got lucky every single fight.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think his defense was really ever boosted in the first place. I think it was just this region.
Well, no. So this is part of my problem. So this is part of my problem with the way it's described and shown. It is both, and I'm just gonna save this for the video that I just never finished because life problems anyway. But they tried to do this weird balance of his defense and a separate defense and regeneration for this. So they did this weird balance, which would have been better done if he just made both stronger, but his regen isn't as good as Boro's. Clear as day. It takes 3 hours to heal from nothing, whereas Boro instantly heals his entire body blowing up. But his defense is substantially stronger than Boro's. Like, he's not blowing up like a balloon every time you touch him. So he has this high durability that's not so high that you care, like the third Raikage or Kimimaro, but it's high enough that he's not going to take noticeable damage, but it's low enough that he'll get knocked out and all that jazz, so that you can then, quote-unquote, show his regeneration that's good enough to, quote-unquote, heal his bruises, but not good enough to heal anything more than bruises. Like, it's a weird balance. Like, I'm not explaining it the best off the cuff, but, like, I don't like the way they've depicted it at all.
I mean,
like, even though I understand what they're doing, it's just not good. It would have been much better if his durability just was Kimimaro level and his regeneration was Boro level. Boom. Now it's clear as day. He is unstoppable on defense. He's literally immortal, quote unquote.
For me, I'm more so looking at the things they obviously put in the story to build it up, regardless if it makes sense or how it's depicted, such as Delta commenting on when Kawaki wakes up against Jura.
Yeah, I know. They mostly comment on the regeneration, but Amano has said it in. But, like, he has to have some good durability feats, because, for example, when Damon reflects his chakra blast, why is he able to not be blown up like Boro? Garo. Well, it's simple. His defense was raised and his offense was lowered.
I mean, you're not going to like this, Kamui.
That's why he doesn't blow up.
You're
but
not
that's why
like
he also
this.
Gets knocked out, because it's not so good he can't get knocked out.
Because I already know that you devised your video or whatever that proves that he had to have it since like the freaking beginning, the defense is boosted or whatever. I don't think Ikimoto's gonna go that direction, even if it's the only possible direction he's gonna go. Okay, it's gonna be like everything else, it just doesn't make sense. But I don't think he's gonna
I know, but like, if it happened over the time skip, it makes so much inverse sense to the point of like, it's like, just in terms of making sense, it's beyond Mabushiki's prophecy not making sense. It's beyond the karma seal making. It's just so obviously what. I'm pretty sure I already went over that. I already explained that in a previous video. So this is more about his abilities, but like, I mean, I went over it. It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, you're gonna call it anime filler, but I'm just saying. In the episode after the Kawaki introduction, when he's brought back in the handcuffs and he has to go escape and he meets that rabid dog and he's bleeding out from Nue and Sumire finds him, the Naruto shows up at the end when he tries to chakra blast everyone. He's pretty damaged throughout the whole episode and he's not healing because he's not eating.
I don't think he still had the healing. But also, to be fair though, my leading theory was that this happened in the Code arc, when he gets the karma seal back and rebuilds his hand. That's my number one theory. Number two is back then he had it too.
The airship, because of the Garo fight when he overheats.
Yeah, it's just because of the feats, like the objective feats of what he does in the Garo fight. That might just make no sense. Whatever. I'm just mentioning the fact that it just is there, so it's worth mentioning.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I think him being blown backwards from the the code thing. I don't think he's going for that there, but I can see why you're saying it at the very least.
No. It's more. I mean, the simple thing is this: in Karma 1 Kawaki versus Garou, when he's quote unquote fatigued to the end of the world, is just straight up making a gigantic crater and blowing everything up. Meanwhile, Karma 2 Horned Kawaki, nowhere near as fatigued, can't even make like a dent in the ground. Like, come on, it's the same jutsu. It's not even a matter of new more continued. No, it's just the same attack. In both the anime and the manga, it just is more destructive in the earlier scene.
One had Kodachi there, the other didn't.
Exactly. But the only problem is Ikimoto drew them both. So anyway.
Oh god, I'm gonna have to rewatch that part on stream just to see how absurd it was afterwards.
So anyway, chapter 22. Okay, so what do you think the midpoint of this arc was?
The midpoint? Midpoint. I don't really know. The midpoint. I mean, you'd assume it's halfway through, but I guess it's not really that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there are times where it just isn't halfway exactly like it should be, but you would want to look for just when the story's taking a new direction in some manner. It doesn't have to be drastically like never before seen, never imaginable direction, but like clearly the direction has changed. And usually you're going to look at either just a failure or false victory moment around that point that's leading into the transition. What would be the best midpoint example in Naruto? Oh, I don't know, the end of part 1.
Midpoint?
Even though that was not in the middle. Hilariously.
I mean, I would... You know, it's funny because if you assume that this one goes on a bit further, then this would be a nice midpoint. That's if you assume it has like maybe 5 to 7 chapters left. Who knows? Maybe. Because the pacing has been weird. So we'll see. But if you assume it ends in chapter 22, I guess a good midpoint would be when the fight shifted. When Araya got the sword, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna win," and then next chapter that wasn't the case.
Okay.
So I will say that works as a midpoint, and it definitely works for Ikimoto's skewed midpoint timing to where the midpoint occurs 2/3 into the chapter, and then the last third is rushed. So following that trajectory, you are right on. I just was counting out the chapters. You were just. If we're going 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's 5 chapters. If we're saying 22, 3 more, yeah, right on point to Ikimoto standards.
Now,
I mean,
what I will say, because I agree, I think this arc is gonna, or not this arc, but I think this battle is gonna be another like 1 or 2 tops chapters, depending on how much they want to cut to other stuff. We talked about this earlier. Kamui agrees. At least I think you did, right? Ace definitely did. Did you agree with that?
Yeah, it kind of, I mean, really, this aspect of the battle, yeah, it can't last too much longer. The arc itself is realistically dependent on Boruto or Kawaki's actions to where they could do something that does lengthen the arc.
Yeah.
But if they don't do anything, then the arc's just not going to continue.
Well, we were saying earlier that it could potentially be like even like 4 more chapters more if it wanted to be like short and ended with this being the final battle. If they're doing the other stuff, but then you're having like 2 chapters of just other stuff, which is insane. Which is, you were saying,
exactly.
Bad. So
that's where it gets tricky.
That's where I agree. So that's why I think even if that's the likely outcome, I'll even go 60-40. It's 60% likely. I'm just going to stick with my guns and go with the 40% intuition on this one, that this is actually going to be a much longer arc than what we believe it to be. And in this regard, it's going to be closer to something like the Land of Waves, to where this is just the first confrontation. In fact, if we're going to go with the certain spoiler that we think it is, it's going to be like Kakashi's revelation against Zabuza. considering Kakashi uses similar things in his second battle against Zabuza. And I'm not going to say that it needs to be a rematch against the same Shinjuu, but specifically because this is the Irrational Love arc, this would be the literally perfect arc for the Sarada Hidari rematch, and then for Sarada to awaken her Mangekyo and or use it against Hidari.
You know the lady that Sarada's never talked to in the manga?
So I'll just say,
yeah,
if this arc is short, and based on what we're saying, it's going to be like 4 more chapters, and like it's going to be like 2 chapters of fighting and 2 chapters of nonsense, I think this is just going to be a bad arc in general. In fact, based on the community sentiment, they're not going to like it. If it is a longer arc, like I'm predicting, as unlikely as it is, the 40% likelihood, I think that could possibly go as far as fixing this arc to the point that I'm almost willing to forgive and excuse the previous arc, specifically the Hidari fight, with Sarada not using the Mangekyo there. It could arguably be better in retrospect that she uses it in the rematch fight, and this arc around Irrational Love. In the rematch,
I agree. So I do agree. So I'm going to say 2 things. One, in either case, they should have just delayed her Mangekyo thing to when she rematches Hidari. In this case, like, there's no reason to have it happen during the Ryu part. Just wait. But I will say this. She's theoretically might have already done it. With that just set in stone, too late, it's happened. The only saving grace they can do, in my opinion, is to continue the arc so that the finale of this arc is the Sarada versus Hidari rematch. Literally. And she's going to have it be important in that fight. If they don't do it, if it's a new arc when that happens, bro,
throw it out. I don't want it.
I'm out.
Have Boruto kill Hidari. I don't care.
I don't care. I have Hidari kill Sarada. Don't even devour her. Just kill her. Just kill her. Don't devour. He tells her, he's gonna go against the Shinjuu by not devouring his target.
Just kill her. Could unironically be a cold line.
And then I'll be literally, bro. And I'll be freed of my suffering. Just like Mikasa with Eren. I'll chop her head off. And let's not even get into myths.
I lost my brain. No, I had something I wanted to ask y'all, and I just it's just gone.
Well, Sarin, how long do you think this arc is going to last?
Maki anything?
Okay. I guess that's a fine one. Yeah. How long do I think the arc is going to last? It seems like it's revving toward. Well, actually, it feels like we're actually at the midway point now. I guess. Sarada's awakened her MS. Konohamaru. Anyways,
see, the MS awakening doesn't feel like anything. Neither does the Konohamaru thing. I would say if this arc is on the shorter end, the midpoint will be simultaneously when Konohamaru pisses off Matsuri. At the same time, it's when Yodo jumps for the claw.
Yeah.
What is it? The thing, thorn. If it's on the longer side, it's going to be after this fight ends.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely going to be a short arc because we can't spend that much time away from Boruto.
We don't have to.
But that's the thing, though. Boruto and or Kawaki's next action could be what lengthens the arc, depending on what they do and stuff. Like, hypothetically, Boruto shows up and pisses off Jura. Okay, now the arc is expanding into something greater.
Yeah, it would be the same thing as Konoha Crush. You wouldn't say that arc is going to be short because Sasuke's fighting Gaara, so we got to get back to Naruto.
Mm-hmm.
Same idea.
I guess what I was going to ask, which